Hey, I'm your host, Lindsay Lyman. I've spent the past 11 years at one of the largest tech companies in the world. My goal is to be the EQ leader for those working in high IQ tech settings. Because without solutions to deal with the constant reorgs, bad managers, and that hum of anxiety, you're one escalation away from losing it. But there's an easier way, and I can show you how. Let's go. Hey y'all, how's your week going? Okay, how is your New Year's focus? I'm really focusing this year on doing things that rejuvenate me. And crafting is one of them. Yes, my craft room flooded and my craft supplies are all over the place. But I'm having a lot of fun kind of planning out what are some projects I want to do this year. It's rejuvenating me. It's giving me some energy. Hopefully, you're finding some things that rejuvenate you as well. Don't be a stranger. Sharing is caring. Let me know what things you're doing that rejuvenate you. Okay, speaking of rejuvenation, today we're going to talk about fatigue. Now stay with me, listen all the way through to the end, because what I want to talk about is not kind of the typical conversation about it. But one of the things I've noticed as I've left my Amazon job after 11 and a half years is I am tired, like in my soul, in my bones, in my core, burnt out, fatigued, tired. And I know I'm not the only one because I worked with a lot of really brilliant, amazing people that are in the same spot. I'm noticing this theme of we're tired. There's been multiple layoffs. The world is crazy. There's COVID. There's the recession. There's a lot of big things and we're just tired. Like at our core, tired. So I want to talk a little bit today about what are some things I think we can do in the short term and what are some areas I think we could focus on long term so that we don't stay in this state where we're just kind of dragging ourselves through life. Full disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I'm not a licensed clinical therapist. This is based on my personal experience I've had with hundreds of my clients and kind of the research I've done. So if this is something that you're really having significant health challenges with and struggles with, please contact your doctor, get professional medical help and advice. This is just some of the things I have found to be helpful. As I looked on the Mayo Clinic site, what really stood out to me and kind of had an aha moment is they talked about most of the time fatigue can be traced to one or more of your habits or routines. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind as we talk about fatigue today. Big picture, all the science and data out there talks about there's 5 kind of key areas, key pillars of your life that you want to be focused on and keeping in balance if you want to have a well-rounded, emotionally, physically healthy life. Okay, now these 5 pillars, I'm not going to go into significant detail on. You know a lot about these things already. There's a lot of people smarter than me, experts out there that can talk about it. But as we dive into what some of these habits and routines are that you might have, creating this deep fatigue, I want to reference these 5 different pillars to help you see where are some of the habits that you might want to focus on optimizing. So the first pillar is sleep. All the data out there says it's amazing, it's wonderful, your body needs it, it's crucial. If you don't have sleep, it starts to have severe psychological effects on you. Generally, the data out there says you should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm pro sleep. I'm 100% in. But in reality, I'm terrible at it. But I think we all know sleep is an important part of having a well-rounded, healthy life. The second pillar is movement. Now, I don't like to call it exercise because if you're like me, exercise has some negative connotation. There's a lot of things I strongly disagree with in our culture, in the diet culture, especially as a woman. Exercise feels hard and not fun. I like to think of this as movement. How can I move my body? Again, tons of data and science and smarter people out there, but how I like to think of movement is my goal is to purposely move my body to kind of get my heart rate up for 20 minutes a day. The third is nutrition. I don't need to go into detail with that, but essentially eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. The more the food we can eat that's in its original state, generally speaking, the better. Okay. So healthy life, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, move 20 minutes a day, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. The fourth, which I thought was interesting, and this is something that I've learned a lot from my coach about, but the fourth thing that's really important that psychologists and scientists have recently added to these kind of core pillars of a healthy life is sunlight, natural sunlight, in particular in the morning. I like how Dr. Nathan Watson, who's an MD and a sleep specialist and a professional of neurology at the University of Washington School of Medicine, he says, light is the single most important element for setting our circadian clock, our internal 24-hour rhythm, and morning light is key. So making sure that you're getting natural light is important. I laugh because it's the end of January and it is just dark and gray and gloomy and cold and the end of winter. And where I live, we don't see the sun a ton, but do what you can, get that natural light every day. And the fifth pillar is relationships. And there's actually 3 parts to this. It's a relationship with yourself, it's a relationship with others, and a relationship with some sort of a higher power. So if you're looking to have a healthy, well-rounded life, life is going to happen. There are hard things, tragedies, sickness, accidents, injustices. Those things will happen. But all the data, all the science, all the psychology tells us if we focus on these 5 things of trying to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, move our bodies at least 20 minutes a day, eat when we're hungry, stop when we're full, and eat nutrient-rich foods, get natural light every day, and to focus on our relationships, this is what will create that optimal, balanced, healthy life. So as we think of fatigue, I kind of like to think of them in relation to these 5 healthy life pillars, because so often we wake up tired or it's pretty common if someone asks like, oh, how are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm great. I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. We say this all the time. But there's different types of tired. There's different types of fatigue. There is physical. You can be physically tired. Your body can physically need to sit and rest. This can happen from doing a lot of physical exercise, not getting enough sleep, right? Your body physically needs to sit down and take a break so that it can rejuvenate itself. So being physically tired isn't always a bad thing. I personally love that feeling of like, oh man, I have got to sit down and take a break when I have physically stretched my body and used it to its full capacity because I know my body can handle it and I know that's me taking care of my body. Okay, so fatigue can come in physical ways, but what I found with myself and most of my clients, usually when we talk about just being that like bone tired, there's a little bit of physical fatigue in there, but that's not really the tired that we're experiencing. It's more emotional. It's more cognitive. It's more socially tired. So I want to talk a little bit about what I mean by that. Emotional fatigue, this happens when we're feeling intense emotion. It can be highs or lows, but when we're feeling a lot of emotion that's outside of our normal feeling of emotion, this can make us feel fatigued. If we're feeling sadness, anger, depression, frustration, excitement, anticipation for an extended period of time, we are going to feel fatigued. I sometimes refer to this emotional fatigue as like having an emotional hangover. I've had moments where I just am feeling really overwhelmed and really stressed, and I just have myself this good, hard, ugly cry. And afterwards, I feel a little hungover because I've just experienced and processed all these emotions in such an intense way. I'm tired. I emotionally need to rest. I emotionally just experienced something big, just like physically. If I go out and run a half marathon, physically my body's going to need a rest. If I emotionally go and process a marathon's worth of emotions in my body and have an extended cry and really feel those emotions, emotionally, I'm going to need a little bit of rest. There's so much energy used experiencing those feelings, it's going to leave you pretty wiped out. Okay, so if you're feeling tired, we want to understand what type of tired are we feeling and how does it relate to those 5 pillars so we know what to do. There's other times we're feeling cognitively fatigued. This comes after expending a lot of mental energy, problem solving, trying to create new strategies, answering really hard questions, being in a situation where we're getting asked a lot of questions on the spot and we feel a need to know the answers right away. This type of activity, it's really common to feel cognitive symptoms such as like brain fog or not being able to think clearly or not being able to think of common words. So again, when you have these moments where you've done really deep thinking, your brain cognitively needs rest. When I find that I've been doing a lot of really deep thinking, this is when I love to watch TV because it doesn't take a lot of brain power for me and I can sit down and enjoy it. So as you find yourself thinking that you're just so tired, again, you want to check in and see, am I physically tired? Am I emotionally tired? Or am I cognitively tired? The other way I like to classify kind of this fatigue is social. This you might feel after speaking to a person or many people for an extended period of time. This might happen after speaking in person, especially when going out and traveling to meet up with people, which requires more energy. I used to experience this all the time. I had been a virtual employee at Amazon for about a year and a half before the pandemic. And so I was working virtually and going back into the Seattle office about once a month. And I loved these visits. I am an extrovert. I loved being around people and being in the office, but being that social all day in person with people, it wiped me out. I would leave those trips so exhausted. And partly I think of this as like that social fatigue. Why I am an extrovert, it also required a lot of energy for me to be present and be in person because that was so outside of my normal day-to-day working experience. Sometimes we experience the social fatigue responding to all of the text messages, the Slack messages, the Chime messages, the emails, comments on social media. This is why you can engage in so many different comments virtually and feel tired. Or now that a lot of us work in a virtual hybrid setting, video calls are really tiring, especially for those of us that don't like to be on video. This is a new way of communicating. It requires a whole new level of energy. Sometimes being on a video call makes us feel that stress and anxiety. Social fatigue can make us feel overwhelmed, stressed, and wiped out, which affects our energy level. Okay, so if you're finding yourself feeling like you're in this constant cycle of tired, most likely there's a lot of things going on. But what I would offer to you to think about is, are you physically tired, emotionally tired, cognitively, socially? Most likely you're a little bit of all these things. So here's what I would offer to you today. Again, there's a ton of professional medical help out there. Go get it. I am all in. What I have really been working on for myself and what I would offer to you is when I think of these 5 pillars that I'm trying to focus on to have a healthy life, it can sometimes feel overwhelming and I want to do all the things and all the pillars at once. And then that just doesn't work. And I kind of give up. So what I'm really focusing on is sleep. And let me tell you why. I have found that when I'm physically tired, I need sleep. When I'm emotionally tired, sleep can help regenerate. When I'm cognitively tired, sleep helps me gain my mental energy back. When I'm socially tired, sleep helps me regenerate. Not to say those other things aren't important, but sleep is the common thread through all of this. It's okay to be tired. I get a lot of things done tired, but I don't need to be tired of feeling tired. Sleep is one of those things that I can more easily do day to day to help myself figure out how do I feel less fatigued in these areas of life. Now, if you're anything like me, I struggle with sleep, not because I don't actually have 7 or 8 hours to sleep. I may tell myself I don't, but if I actually sit down and map out my day, I actually do. I found I really struggle with sleep, mainly because of what psychologists refer to as revenge bedtime. I would work all day, do my mom thing, do my coaching thing, and then it would be bedtime and I'd be like, haha, this is my time to do whatever I want to do. And why I knew I also wanted to sleep and rest, it felt like this is the only time I have for me and I wanted to do some things for me. So I would binge watch a show. I would get on social media and start scrolling. This is why some people are like, don't have a phone in your room. Don't look at a screen 30 minutes before you go to bed, because those things are helping your circadian rhythm. They're helping you fall back asleep, which is great. What I have found is helpful for me is, yes, to not look at a screen. Sometimes that means not having my phone in my room, but to purposely acknowledge I am tired, emotionally, physically, cognitively, socially tired. One thing I can do to help myself is make sure I get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I can set a bedtime. I'm pretty good about setting a wake-up time and sticking to that. I don't sleep through my alarm. I may snooze a lot, but I get up when I need, and I make that first meeting I have in the morning. I'm focusing on doing the same thing at night. Someone posted a meme the other day that hit home with me as I get older, where they were talking about, we used to brag about how late we stayed up. Now we brag about how early we went to bed. But I think without getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, those other 4 pillars of having a healthy lifestyle are that much harder. I don't want to move my body. I don't want to eat healthy. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to focus on my relationships when my body has physically not had enough sleep to regenerate itself. So, if you find yourself in this state where you are constantly tired and dragging yourself through life, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on, but what I would offer to you is to just start small. Start one change at a time, and let's focus on getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you only sleep on average 4 to 5 hours, don't jump to 7 to 9. Start by trying to get an extra 30 minutes of sleep and be consistent at doing that for 2 weeks, and then increase it by another 30 minutes. But my offer to you this week is to make sleep a priority. Your body, your brain, your emotions, your relationships will benefit significantly from it. So let's you and I focus on getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I want to hear how it's going. I want to hear what things are tripping you up, where it's hard. Don't go for all or nothing. Success comes from small, consistent improvement, not big changes that we fall in and out of. Pick a bedtime tonight. Think of me as you're going to sleep. Put down the phone, turn off the TV, close the book, close your eyes, and let's all go and get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. All right, my friends, you're amazing. Have fun. You got this. If you listen to this podcast and feel heard and seen for the first time in a while, this is just the beginning. I offer a limited number of free coaching calls. On this call, we'll talk about what's going on, and you'll leave with specific ways to start feeling better today. So listen to that inner pull and let's chat. Grab some time on my calendar before I'm booked up. To schedule a call, click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat and sign up. You got this.